So, back to my original file for a little review of my trip as a wrap-up to my blog. This was where I kept everything that I needed to help me on my journey, and it worked out pretty well. Starting in Menton, that was my first stop, which is about 20 minutes from Monte Carlo, and it was a lovely, lovely spot, both Menton and Monte Carlo. A lot of steps to get to see these sites, but this is the tournament center court at Monte Carlo. Beautiful, beautiful views, and some of the best things about Menton were the sea view from our apartment as well. I can't forget my friends who I stayed with there, Lena from Toronto and Karen and Joe from the Manchester. Really great companions and apartment mates, and it was a lot of fun getting to know them better and staying with them. Of course, one of the best things about Monte Carlo was seeing Rafa almost every day. There was good access, and he got to the final, so that was definitely a highlight. Then on to Barcelona. I stayed with Anne and Jody there, and it was really nice to see Jody again and stay with her there. And I didn't do too much besides going to the tennis tournament. Bought a little souvenir in this bag. Jody, of course, got to see more. She went down to the beach and did some biking and saw some sights that we didn't. We were lucky, though, that we were there on St. Jordi Day, and so Jody and I spent the day looking at people carrying roses around, and we actually went to a bookshop. Most of it was in Spanish, but we visited and looked at the English section anyway, and so that was a nice day. Made it to the Plaza Catalunya. Best things about Barcelona were definitely the fact that I saw my first trophy bite by Rafa at the tournament, and the apartment that we stayed in was really nice and lovely. So those were some of the good things about Barcelona. Then on to Mallorca, and I don't really have any inserts on this page, despite the fact that this was probably my favorite part of the trip. But you know, many of the things that made up this wonderful week were things that you can't really put a price on or that were free, like seeing Rafa practicing in his home territory. Just wonderful. And having a sea view from our apartment. It was the apartment that cost us the least, probably, of the whole trip, but beautiful, beautiful views, and right across from the beach and the marina and the harbor, and it was just gorgeous. And of course our hosts, Deanna and Miguel, wonderful people, really great welcome. They included us throughout the week in different things that were going on. May 1st is when they start their summer there, so definitely those were some of the highlights. After we had been in Mallorca, then Jody and I flew to Madrid, and we stayed in an apartment. I think it was the 8th floor or something of that apartment, so a completely different view, but we got to do lots of interesting things in that city. I went to the tournament, and of course I saw Rafa bite the trophy for the Masters 1000 tournament there, and that was the first time I'd seen that, so that was definitely a highlight. We were there during San Isidro week, and so we saw a few extra things that we might not have seen. We went to the opening night concert called a Zarzuela, which is a Spanish operetta, and we saw the Magdalenas parading and also dancing, and so there were some really cool things that we saw that were sort of unusual. We also went to flamenco there, and it was really great. We took a gourmet tapas tour, and I had a brochure, but I gave it to Jen because she's going there in September, so enjoy, Jen. Some of the best things about Madrid definitely were the cooking classes that we took, and the tapas tour, because it was the day before the actual San Isidro day. Our guide did a little bit of extra stuff with us because he knew he didn't have to work the next day, so it was a lot of fun. So those were some of the highlights. After Madrid, of course, Jody flew home, and I continued my journey on my own. And My first stop on my own was Bordeaux, um, on the kind of between Madrid and Paris, I guess. I took the train there, and I stayed at Maison de Vigne, and that was itself a highlight of my tour. Very old building in the Saint Michel district of Bordeaux, and really well done, well renovated place. And the L'Habitad and Pierre, the hosts there, were really great, very wonderful people, and really looked after me well, and very nice accommodations there. So that was a real highlight, as well as taking the tram in Bordeaux, because it's street level and it's quiet and easy and goes to a lot of places. I really loved that mode of transportation. Of course, the wine was the feature in Bordeaux, and so the very first day I went to that wine tasting. That was my ticket, and it was quite an experience being in having all those Grand Cru wines and hospitality in the same place. And so it was a good experience, and it was my first experience with a wine tasting. And then I took a tour, the Bordovino tour, which was about 6 of us in a van with Stéphane. He was our guide, and he took us to the Saint-Emilion district, which is mostly Merlot. And so, of course, I love Merlot now. And it was, we went to 2 chateaux there, both very different, but both really interesting, and really a great day, a wonderful experience. So that was definitely a highlight of Bordeaux. Then from Bordeaux, I went on to Paris. Lovely, lovely Paris. I didn't see, really anything compared to what I could have, and I was there for the longest period of time. But I loved Paris for different reasons, and I would certainly go back in a minute, because there's so much more to see there. The first week, or 9 days actually, I stayed in B&B near the Roland Garros site, and that's where I spent most of my time. I did take one day and went to Museum Marmottan, where I encountered Monet in all his glory for the first time to that extent, and this was one of my favorite paintings, Iris Jaune et Mauve, and it was beautiful from a distance, from different perspectives. It was just gorgeous, and I kind of am hooked on the Impressionists now. I also, the next week, after I had spent a lot of time at Roland Garros, my tickets ran out, although the tournament continued, and so I did lots of other things and kept up with the tournament just by TV. And I took a bus tour, which went around to all the major sites, and it was a good way to go, because it was mostly sitting and enjoying. And it gave me an idea of some places that I might want to get back to, which I did. So in the next days, I went back to the opera, to the Galerie Lafayette, to do a little bit of shopping. I visited Musée d'Orsay, and that was definitely a highlight for me, because it had a lot of the Impressionists, and this was the plan for it. I spent most of the time on the 5th floor, because that's where the Impressionists were, and it was just beautiful. It was lovely. I did go to a few other galleries and look at some of the sculptures, but mostly I spent my time there. I also went back to the Eiffel Tower, which I don't have any pictures of, because I just went at night. I didn't go up the Eiffel Tower. I went actually to Trocadero and looked at it from across. There's some gardens and a street there, and it's a nice way to see it at night when it starts to light up, and it's a good view, so I did that. For sure, Monet and the architecture were a highlight there, and can't forget to mention that Rafa won the Roland Garros tournament. So the 8th time that he won Roland Garros, the French Open, and the first time I saw him win a Grand Slam in person. So that was an amazing thing, and I'll never forget that. To celebrate the next morning, I went with 2 Rafa fans from the United States, and we went to Angelina for their famous hot chocolate, and we had breakfast there. And then I basically left my little apartment that I stayed in for the last 6 days and went on to Bielefeld, which is near Halle, which is a grass tournament in Germany. And not much to see in Bielefeld, really. It was about 30 minutes or so, I guess, 20 minutes to 30 minutes by train to Halle, to the Gary Weber station, which is right by the tournament. But the highlight of that week for sure was going to see Lars and his family. Lars came to Bielefeld. He lives in Münster right now. And this is him and his girlfriend. I didn't actually meet his girlfriend. She was in a wedding party the next day, so she couldn't take the day off. But this is Lars and her, and they seem very happy. He's recently graduated.